What's happening, everybody? Welcome to episode 26, Dealing with Outside Distractions. So Brian Herrera is a top leader in Stephen Reif's office, and Stephen says awesome things about you, Brian. He takes such huge initiative for his learning, and he's a great student of the business, great student of just being successful on and off the court. And a little context here before the question, you're a family man, you've got a 3-year-old. And so even in the notes that you sent me with your question, you're very motivated to take care of your family. Your family is your why. This is why you want to become an owner and control your destiny, is so you can give your family a better life. So I love your why. I love where your head's at. And I can relate. And we'll get to this in a second. So how do you deal with outside factors, outside distractions? Has there ever been a time in your life that you were limited in your ability to see your kids? And so, yes, there was. And so when I got this question, I'm like, oh man, you're bringing back some great memories here. And I want to address this, and really this for all the folks that are watching this that have little ones, because, of course you have little ones and you want to be there at every turn. And so I do remember a season in my life. Okay. I guess before I get to the season, let me back it up for you. I worked like a dog to get promoted to senior national. It took 10 years, 98 to 2008, to put myself in a position where, okay, now I can be a family guy. That was my strategy, whether it's right or wrong. I was a little late in having kids, but I had my first child when I was 36. Now, right around that time, I also started a solar business. Okay, so right around the time he was born. It's interesting because right before my kids were born, I'm like, I wonder if my ambition's going to go down because I'm going to want to just stay at home all the time. I'm going to want to be a family guy. And so I'm telling you, when my son was born, my ambition got some rocket fuel. I'm like, I had all this extra energy because I want to be a great role model. I want my kids to see dad in a relentless sort of manner. And hey, the reason we got nice stuff is because, hey, dad worked real hard for it. Mom worked real hard for it. So I thought that was really important for my kids to see. So my ambition didn't go down once I had kids. It only got higher. So again, my son was born. I started a solar business. And I don't know if there's ever been a time in my career where I worked harder than when I did first setting up that solar business. For my son's first 3 years of his life, he never saw his old man. He never saw dad. Monday through Friday. I thought I'd throw that piece in. Kind of important. I was gone by 6:30 in the morning. He got up sometime after 6:30. I'm not exactly sure when. And I was getting home roughly around 9 o'clock at night. The schedule was intense, to say the least. And so again, I remember that window in my life, and so I want to address that and answer your question as best as I can. So I can relate to you. I know what you're talking about. I want to see my little family. I'm working hard for my little family, but I'm just not putting in the time with my little family. So what was going through my mind, and what are my lessons here for you? I've got 2 things. Number 1 is that was a short-term sprint. Now, if that schedule that I just described, he's leaving the house at 6:30, he's getting home after 9. If that was my career for a 25-year span, I'm like, man, I don't think my wife would have even married me. Okay, forget about the children. Like, she'd be like, man, I'll never see you. But it was a short-term sprint, and I told that to my wife, and I remember whispering that to my little one, that, hey, listen, this is just what's required of me now, but I'm doing this now so we can live a great life tomorrow. What was more important, those little baby years, or being able to be a coach in Little League Baseball and just being there for my kids as they got a little bit older? So it was a short-term sacrifice that I had to make, and it was certainly a short-term sacrifice that my wife had to make. So she was almost like a single parent Monday through Friday. It was all her, putting all the work into the little one. Diapers need to be changed. It was only her. There was no other option Monday through Friday. And then when I got my little guy on Saturday and Sunday, hey, my wife can now take a rest. She can sleep. I'm going to walk my little guy to Starbucks and walk to the park. And so, I remember, that was it was a short-term sprint. It was really 3 years. Now, some people may say, well, 3 years isn't short-term. Grand scheme of things, 3 years is short-term. Again, we're not talking about a 20 to 25 year, marathon. We're talking about a 3-year sprint. So just understand when you're going through a season, okay, seasons in life, it is short-term and new seasons will come. And new seasons did come for me, but that was what was required of me at the time. And that gave me sanity knowing it was a season. It wasn't a forever thing, that this is my schedule forever, especially while you're a rep in the field. A rep, life is a rep, that's a season. There's nothing permanent about being a rep in the business. It's a short-term season and then it's going to shift, all right? So I made the decision that I wanted to take on a new project. I wanted to start a solar business. I asked for it. I can't expect everybody else to do all the work. I've got engaged, but I knew it was a short-term season. So that's tip number 1 is understand it's a season. You go all in on that little season and you'll have other seasons later. Then number 2 is then focus. When I was with my son in those early stages, I love looking back at those videos, watching us wrestling around in the park after going to Starbucks and stuff like that. Just cherished moments. Okay, love those moments. And so when I look at those moments, oh yeah, there's a lot of love for my son. And I know, my wife knows, during that season, yeah, Dad was wearing a Superman costume Monday through Friday, going crazy hours. You're going, 14, 15 hours a day setting up a business. But yeah, was it worth it? Of course it was worth it. It worked out for me. But that time, again, I almost thought of bringing my son onto this to ask him, hey, do you have any regrets of Dad going bonkers, crazy with a schedule those first 3 years? I thought that'd be a little cheesy because he'd get on here and say, Dad, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't remember that time. My wife will remember that time, but my son doesn't remember that time. Does my son like the life that he has now yes. I get plenty of time with all 3 of my kids. It's super important to me to be a great dad and to be present, and I've got the time for them now. But that time when I was in that season, again, short-term time, when I did have my son, I knew I wasn't going to get the quantity of time. I knew I wasn't going to get the quantity. I only had 2 days a week of even seeing this little guy. But I want to, make up for the lack of quantity with huge and wild quality. Okay, just loving on him, enjoying that time, being present, not checking my cell phone and not thinking about work when I'm with him, just full on loving my little guy. It filled me up. It gave me the rocket fuel to, again, put on that Superman costume. So hopefully it does the same for you. Hopefully those 2 tips for you, Brian, give you the sanity and the motivation to go win the day, okay? Be successful in business and be successful in family. You can do both. It is not an either or. If it was an either or, like, oh, gee, Jamie, you can either be successful in your family life or success in business, which one would you rather have? Thank God I wasn't presented with an either or option. It's an and. You can do both. Just understand it's a season and focus. When you're with your little monster, focus on that little monster, enjoy and love that time, and set yourself up for a greater life. I'll just close with this. The entrepreneur's credo, I think I've said this a few times. Entrepreneurs, okay, you put the time in, you live like no one else. So later on, you can live like no one else. That is really how an entrepreneur thinks. You're willing to make that short-term sacrifice really for that long-term gain. So again, I just go back to your why, Brian. Your family's your motivation. Your family's your why. I think you're in the right space. You're in the right business. Work real hard to set yourself up, and I don't think you're going to have any regrets. So that's my tip for you here, Brian. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you all real soon.